All right, so I got this engine out of the Future Lemons car. It's a 06 V6. I got to do the timing chains, on this thing. In order to get these back timing chain, you have to pull the engine out. If you know of a way to get this back timing chain out without pulling the engine, let me know, or put something down in the comments so that other people can do it without having to pull this whole thing out. But this video, I'm going to go over the steps on replacing the chains and the tensioner and the guides. Basically setting the timing on this thing. All right, so to do the timing chain, I got this kit off of Amazon. I'll put the brand and the part number down below. I'm not even sure how to pronounce this thing. Yuesstloo or something like that. All I did was I searched up 4.0 single overhead cam timing kit, or timing chain kit, or cam kit, or something like that. This was a little over 50 bucks. Not bad for all this stuff. Hopefully everything works on here. I don't know how many times it'll work, but I don't do a whole lot of these. But I mean, for 50 bucks to make sure that you're doing it correctly, that's not that much. This is 2024, so if you're watching this 10 years from now and this kit is way more than 50 bucks, you know, I apologize, but there are ways that you can do it. I've seen some videos on people doing this. Cloyes actually has a really good video. I have a Cloyes timing chain kit. They have a really good video on how to use all this stuff and how to, you know, do the timing chain. There's also other people that have done it without all this stuff, and I'll talk about it while we're doing it. They basically use vice grips. You basically have to hold the cams in place once you get everything to top dead center. It's kind of crazy that Ford didn't have many timing marks on this engine. There's only like a timing mark for the balance shaft, which I'm going to delete, so that doesn't even matter. So let's get into it. I'm going to start with the back cam. We got to get this thing at top dead center. Now, what I've seen is that you got to get the keyway needs to be straight up and down. When the keyway is straight up and down, everything's at top dead center. But remember, there's two different top dead centers. So we got one at on the beginning of the power stroke, and then we got one at the beginning of the intake stroke. So we need to be on the one that there's a little cutout in this camshaft. That cutout is off center. Right now, if I were to go backwards and move this thing up, the cutout would be kind of towards this top. So I need to go all the way around, and so this rotates all the way around, and the cutouts are facing towards the bottom. You got to make sure you get it up on the right top dead center. So before I turn this thing over, I don't want to be fighting compression, so I'm going to pull the spark plugs out of here. Before you pull the spark plugs out, make sure it's clean inside there. Make sure that when you pull these spark plugs out, you're not going to get a bunch of debris down on top of your piston. So first thing I'm going to do, I'm going to pull these spark plugs out. I like to lay them out in order so I can kind of take a look at them, see how each cylinder was running. These don't look that bad. They look okay. Nothing jumping out at me like these things are fouled out or anything, so that's good. Now the tool that goes on here, we're going to have to put the crankshaft back on here, put the tool on to make sure that it goes top dead center, but it touches the bottom of the block, so I'm going to take this oil pan gasket off. All right, I don't have the tool that goes over the crankshaft to crank it around, so I'm going to use my trusty adjustable. Just tighten it down a little bit until it hits that keyway, and then you can turn it, rotate it over. All right, so the way the special tool works in the kit, there's a groove on the crank pulley that it sits in, and then it goes up and it hits the bottom of the engine block. So we need to slide this on a little bit and get that tool going. Okay, this is the tool from the kit that is for setting a top dead center. I don't want to push this crankshaft all the way on there because it's kind of a pain to get off of there. But we'll just check it and see. Okay, so when this thing is, when this arm and the arm of this thing is touching the bottom of the engine right here, that's supposed to put it at top dead center, which of course the keyway is straight up and down. So in all actuality, you don't really need this tool as long as you can get it pointing, straight up towards the center of this sprocket here. You'd be fine. All right, so here you can see the cutouts are kind of off center and they're towards the bottom. So now we need to hold that cam in place. This is the tool that comes in the kit, and it's got these little wings on there. It's going to slide into the camshaft, and the idea is when you tighten this bolt up here, it spreads out and it's going to hold the camshaft in place. So these don't need to be super tight on here, but just need to be tight enough to hold the camshaft from rotating. All right, so now with this tightened in here, this camshaft should not move. We can move back to the back and swap out that chain. All right, now back on the back side of the engine here. This is a right-hand thread, so it's going to go righty-loosey, and I'm just going to kind of watch this camshaft to make sure it doesn't rotate as I hit this thing. Okay, so that's loose. Now we got to get this little plug out of the back so we can get to the bolt there. Well, I sure hope the new kit comes with a new plug because I really messed that one up getting it out of there. And now there's a bolt in the jack shaft. So the jack shaft is like it's basically where the camshaft used to be on the older 3.8s. They put a jack shaft in there and then they put the timing chain on there. So the jack shaft bolt for the back side, gonna take that thing off. This is a T55 Torx bit. So there's quite a bit of Torx bits on this job. If you don't have some Torx tools, then you're gonna need to invest in some. All right, now we can take this tensioner out. This is a 27 mil, kind of a big socket. Get that guy out of the way. All right, so now we got the jack shaft bolt, we got the cam bolt off. Now we can get this, they call it a cassette. It's basically got the tensioner and the chain and everything on there. So to get to it, there's a bolt down here that we got to get through, and guess what? It's another Torx bit. It's the same one, it's a T30, so we'll get that off of there, and then it'll give us access to the screw down there. And this one, the top one, will come out pretty easy too. This little bolt isn't going to come out because the flywheel's on there. Just barely missed it. Oh, come on, man. Come on, what's wrong with these engineers? All right, so really good news here. Can't get this little bolt out of here. It looks like, unless the flywheel is off of there. So got to take the clutch off, take the flywheel off just to get this thing off of there. So this just keeps getting funner and funner. All right, so to get the flywheel off of here, it's got these, I call them outside Torx. They're not regular hexes. They look like the inside of Torxes, but they're opposite. So this is an E12. Get this guy off. Okay, now that the flywheel's out of the way, now we can move our bolt out. All right, so I look in here, I don't see, there's nothing in there. So that was the bolt that goes through there. So that whole thing's the bolt. It's not an access bolt like I thought it was. So I'm going to take this top one off because normally it would be attached to that, but it's not. So but take it off. Now I should be able to take all this stuff out of here. don't forget this is reverse thread. I just was trying to get it out of there and I forgot it was reverse thread. So to get it out, let's turn it to the right. All right, so since ours is broken, there's a bunch of little pieces down inside there. I'm gonna try and fish them out with my needle nose here, really long needle nose. All right, so there's one piece way down in there and I can't get it with my needle nose and it's plastic. So, I mean, I guess if this thing was on an engine stand, I could rotate it over, but I got this cool little grabber thing. I haven't had to use this in a while. So as you squeeze it here, it opens up. So let's see if this thing will work. Oh yeah, it's like a little game of operation, but I got that little sucker out of there. And here's the Cloyes timing kit, part number 90398SB. They make two of these, one for with the countershaft, one without it. This is, I think, with the countershaft, even though I'm not going to use the countershaft, but it comes with everything, tensioners. Hopefully you got one of them seals for the back. All right, so here's our new chain, and there's our old one, and you can see how the tensioner, the guide, that's what came out, and this is the new one. So obviously that thing was needing some replacing. So this is how it's going to go in, just like that. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and snake this sprocket down in there, see if I can't get that on there. All right, I don't know what it is with this, getting the chain and that sprocket down in there. It's almost as if it doesn't want to fit back in there. But you keep messing with it and, you know, it'll go. It'll eventually go. Just got to kind of keep working on it. Now I'm going to get the bolt lightly threaded onto there, the jack shaft bolt. All right, now I'm going to work this tensioner down in there. So this side has to go on the bottom side of the chain, and then this has to go on the top side of the chain. So I'm going to try and work that thing in there. Now I'm going to put this sprocket on there. All right, I kind of got everything loosely installed on here. I'm going to put this pivot bolt up on towards the top here, loosely as well. The first time I put it in there, I didn't have the actual pivot bolt down here in where it needed to be, so I had to pull that sprocket back off. Again, if you kind of just work everything in there slowly, you know, just kind of wiggle it around and stuff just to make sure that it'll go in there correctly, and take your time with it and it should go on right. I almost put this screw in there wrong. Since it was all torn apart, broken apart, I didn't know how it was supposed to go. But there's a cutout in here where this lip goes down into. So that metal piece goes down in the lip, and that provides the standoff to where this plastic guide is in line with the chain. And I'll show a close up on it as soon as I tighten this down a little bit. Okay, so if you look here on this top guide here, there's a little cutout in there, and that cutout needs to have the lip from the spacer in it. Otherwise, it'll pull the spacer too close and it'll get away from the chain and it won't be on there correctly. The tensioner, you want to make sure the tensioner side is lined up with the chain as well, and that the pivot is through where it needs to be at. I mean, if you don't have the pivot in the correct spot, then this bolt up here isn't going to line up. But I got everything loosely installed right now. I'm not going to tighten anything down before I make sure everything's correct. So I'm going to do that next. All right, so before I tighten anything down on the back, this is what's going on in the front. You basically gotta, when you tighten everything down, you want to have everything you know, in its proper timing. So what I don't want is this thing to be loose. I want it to be, you know, somewhat tight. as if the tensioner was on there. So I'm gonna put that little vise on there to keep it where it needs to be. Then I'm gonna go back to the back and tighten up the back. Okay, so these two T30s get tightened to 9 foot-pounds. So once you get these too tight, you want to make sure that the pivot still pivots, still moves freely. Then we're going to install the tensioner tool, and we're also going to hold the sprocket with a special tool. Now the camshaft bolt, 19 mil, that thing goes to 63 foot-pounds. This might be kind of tricky since it's dangling here. Now the jack shaft bolt is 15 foot-pounds and then another 90 degrees. It also says to put a that we want to put a another wrench on the other side here to kind of help hold it in place. All right, so that guy, after 90 degrees, my torque wrench said it was at 100 foot-pounds, so that's pretty tight. So if you're doing it without an angle thing, you want to just put it to 100 foot-pounds or somewhere around there, that should be good. And now I'm going to take the tensioner tool out and put the new tensioner in there that came with the kit and torque to 32 foot-pounds. Okay, now we can take our special tools off of here, off the front and the rear. So the kit does come with a new plug. I'll put that in. First I'm going to take this tensioner off of here. Got just enough room to get in there and get it. Alright, I got the cam holding tool on the left hand side. Now I'm going to take this sprocket bolt off of here. Alright, now I'm going to take this bolt out of the primary chain. Don't want the crank to move, so I'm going to hold it with this wrench. Now I'm going to take off what's left of the primary tensioner. Now I take the primary guide off of here. Now the chain should come off. And now we can pull this cassette out of here. Alright, so this cassette thing doesn't want to come up out of there. There's a bushing that's in the way. And I'm going to have to give it a little bit of persuasion to get it to come out. By persuasion, I'm going to put this pry bar in there and hit it with a hammer. Now I'm going to take all this balance shaft stuff off. Alright, so when I was getting that one off of there, the crankshaft spun a little bit, so I need to put that back pointing straight up. Alright, so here's the new chain and cassette. I'm going to snake that down in there. And now I'm going to put the cassette bolts in there. This top one goes to 9 foot-pounds. The bottom one is to 14 foot-pounds. All right, now we're going to install the tensioner tool. And now I'm going to get my primary chain on there. Next we're going to do the guide on here. This gets to 14 foot-pounds. This guide. Now I'm going to put the tensioner on. This thing is going to go to 89 inch-pounds. Next I'm going to put on the sprocket holding tool. Keep that in place and then torque the sprocket bolt to 63 foot-pounds. All right, so this is going to be pretty fun. This is going to go to 33 foot-pounds and then another 90 degrees. We'll see how that pans out. I got my wrench on here too to hold the crankshaft because I got a feeling it's going to be quite a bit of pressure on here. Now I'm going to take the tensioner tool out and put the new tensioner from the kit inside, and those get torqued to 32 foot-pounds. Now I'm going to pull the pin on the tensioner, it was already pretty tight, and take off the cam holding tools from the front and the rear. Once you get the cam positioning tool off the back of the left bank, it's not a bad idea to take this and make sure that it still fits on the right bank. That way you know that the right bank didn't move when you were tightening any of this stuff down. So ours didn't. It's also, you can tell by those cutouts are also still kind of parallel with the cylinder head, and they haven't, you know, they're not off center or anything. So if that's still centered, the back one on this side is still centered, and your keyway is still pointing straight up, and you got everything tightened down, your timing is set. You're good to go. All right, so the new chains are in. Got the new primary chain, the new tensioner. I'm going to delete this counter shaft. I'll show that in the next video, but this one's all about the timing chains. The left-hand bank is in and tightened down. You can see the plastic came with a new tensioner, and the back side, which is the pane side, is good now too. You can see got that all on there. The chain's tightened down. This kit ended up working out really well. Again, I'll put the part number down below in the description. And here is one last look at the components that came out. So this is from the back side. There isn't much here. This is from the front side. There really is, I mean, almost nothing on here. This cassette has got nothing on it. This is the primary tensioner. Like, there's nothing on there. It doesn't even have anything on there. It's missing the whole plastic piece and the pivot thing. So this is much better. Hopefully it doesn't make any noises. Follow along. There will be more segments to this. You know, next there's a couple more things I want to do to the engine before I start putting it back together. You know, one of them being the counter shaft. There's a little sludge catcher thing. I'm going to pull that out and take a look at it. And then there's going to be a series where I'm putting this thing back in the future Lemons car. So make sure you stay tuned, subscribe, hit that like button, and leave any comments if you have any questions. Thanks for watching.